Alright, welcome back to Carbon with Eric. Still working on this little penguin. And you can find that pattern on my blog. The blog is ericowensart.blogspot.com. If you want to, you can find me on Facebook, John Eric Owens. I post on there what I've carved and what I'm doing. So check me out if you like. Friend me if you want. Otherwise, my page is wide open so anybody can get there. Got a few tools laid out here. Gonna get going on finishing up this little fella. Got 6 lessons in, so we're back into lesson number 7. Today we're going to work on a couple of things, and one of the first things we're going to start with is the space right in between the legs. So before we do anything else, we're going to remember our safety. I'm going to put on my gloves. It seems like every time I get cut seriously, and I mean seriously as in needing a real band-aid, it's without the gloves. So I'm trying to get into that habit of always using my gloves. Sometimes I forget, sometimes I get in a hurry. Anyway, I want to remove that area right between the feet, and I can use a lot of different removal tools, but one of the things I'm going to do is do it with my V-gouge, and I'm just going to take as much as I can off the sides. Whatever removal tool you use, feel free to do that. I'll switch back and forth. Sometimes I'll use one, sometimes I'll use another. I'm not a big advocate for going out and having to purchase a lot of tools, especially as a beginner carver. You don't want a lot of tools that you may not need very well. I went to some classes where the instructor said, you absolutely need this tool, and I probably have 4 or 5 in my tool bag that I've not used outside of that class. So I don't want to tell you to go use and buy a lot of tools. Use whatever you feel comfortable with, and if at any time you feel like you need to go out and buy another tool, make sure you have a use for it. Make sure you're not just buying tools. Tool manufacturers really want to sell you tools, and I get that. That's their living. But make sure what tools you're buying you really need, because if you don't need them, then they're just going to sit in your bag. You're going to think of them as a waste of time. So make sure you have bought the tools you need and use the tools you bought. Kind of like that military attitude. When you go to dinner, they tell you to take all you want, eat all you take. So buy all you want, use all you buy. That's my opinion. Anyway, at some point you're going to get to the point where your feet are getting to be harder to get in there. A little narrow tool like this works. A smaller V tool might work just as well. Even a smaller U-gouge might work. So I forgot to set my timer. Let's set the timer real quick so that we know we're not going over 10 minutes. And so the problem we have with going over 10 minutes is it takes so long to upload them. It seems like anything under 10 minutes takes about an hour. Anything over 10 minutes takes a few hours. I think YouTube has a announcement in their video feeds that says you can load up to 15 minutes. After that, it's going to severely slow down. So I'm going to try to keep mine right around 10. Hopefully we can get this thing done before too long. But all I'm doing is still just removing that wood in between, and it looks ugly until you get it all out of there and you get the right tool that gets in there. I don't want to grab another tool because I'll move the camera all the way around. You have a hard time following it. Some of you might be getting sick. We can also minimize the amount of room in there, and so in this case I could take off some of that foot, because here's what we're going to end up with. This foot, we're just going to make him 3 toes, kind of cartoonish, and it's going to come down to where it's more rounded here. I like leaving as much as I can until the last minute when I have to take things off. But in this case, we might just have to take a little bit off from those lines right there. So I'll remove a little bit here. I can just go straight in, and I can cut that off. And it approximates the line that I got there. I'm close. I'm close enough. So I'll do the same thing over here. Make that a little bit smaller. Taking that wood off. Making them look like they're getting somewhat around the same size. This one looks like it sticks out a little bit more. I'll take a little bit more off here. Make it more pointed over here. And then we'll undercut those later to separate those feet from the body. But right now all we're doing is just trying to round that in there and get separation between the two. Okay, close enough. We'll come back to it a little bit later. Right now we got the rough all shape. Again, trying to do as several instructors have taught me in the past, trying to get that gross anatomy re-established where it needs to go, shaping everything so it's got roughly the same shape, same size. Nothing like one foot being a little bit bigger than the other, and if you can see that right there, there's a difference between the 2 feet. So I am going to trim this one in a little bit more. Just a little bit more, and we'll thin them out because they're fairly thick. We'll thin them out as we go along later. Anyway, we're going to go back up here and do a little bit of just cleanup work, trying to make things where they look right. Get rid of these drawn lines on that I put on, around the edge of the hat. All these little cleanups. You'll see a carver will work in an area for a while and then move on to another area, because what we don't want is to piddle, play, and putter, to use the vernacular of my favorite painting instructor, Jerry Arnell. We don't want to piddle, play, and putter in one area and just not be able to get where we need to go. So we'll just continue playing around. We have done that here, we'll do that here. See how that comes out.
Yeah, Luke.
I think he's looking good so far. We got some cleanup and some other areas to work on, but I think he is looking like a little fat, happy penguin. So, clean up some areas, make sure that's flat across, because what we want to do is make sure that he sits well. First thing we want to do is put him on there and him roll off. Leans a little bit to one side or the other, but that's because the bottom's not completely flat. We can do that in a number of different ways. I'll trim it flat here with a flat gouge. Well, fishtail gouge. I could use a bigger gouge. I could put him on the sander just to flatten that bottom out a little bit. That looks a little better. Look at there. Look at him sitting there. Boy, that's looking good. Okay. I'm going to draw. Let's go back to those feet. I'm really think we need to clean that up, because I don't know about you. I don't like